and go, gosh, I'm really sitting here in front of the Secretary of Defense.
Well, and even around here, when you actually see it in person, or you go and you can get a feel of it. If you go to some of the rallies or some of the small things that's advertised, you really see how small the world is,
Yeah.
because it's just it's you see it on TV. It's big, it's famous, but then when you get there, it's just like
Yeah.
everybody's the same.
Yeah, it
And I don't
was.
mean far as rank, but I'm talking about it's a small world to be in that little piece of real estate
Yeah.
shared by those people. So
Yeah.
it is a cool thing. A lot of logistics. You know that you're talking about flying. The reason you get
Mhm.
nervous, because here's the thing. It's always your time to go, and you never know. But the problem is, if it's the pilot's time, it's your time as well.
Oh no, that's what I was
Just for
wondering.
something to think about.
So I was sitting there in the back of the plane, and at some point, Cindy, who was with me, we were holding hands, and I'm not afraid to admit I was holding a woman's hand last night because I was like, if I'm going down, I'm going down with you. But all I could do was like just look at their pilot. And I was like, is he nervous? Is he nervous? Is Drew nervous? Like, what are they doing? And when the
Is he awake?
yeah, I'm like, can I fly this thing down? What are we doing? And it was so cool though, flying into Statesville and you see like Statesville from up above at night. It was just really kind of a neat experience, except for when we turned around trying to get to the Statesville airport and there was a wind that was pushing us
Oh,
around. That's when I was like, oh dear Lord.
and I'm never really in small. I've never really. I mean, I flew in some small ones. The worst ones, I got the opportunity, and Bill Hamby will know exactly what. Flying a World War II fighter down
Really?
over Lake Norman, and it's like a teeniest piece of metal that separates you from the outside.
Oh.
And you've got the dome or whatever, the cabin piece, and
Uh-huh.
you're flying, and everything's hooked up with just linkage and wires.
Oh,
And I didn't notice all that time up there looking down, and I
God.
start looking around at where my feet, and there's pedals, and I wonder, should I rest my foot there? But
Yeah.
small planes are something
They
something to
are. I mean,
ride
it's
on. So
nice. It's like a time machine, right? Because otherwise, it'd have been an 8-hour drive to get to Tupelo, Mississippi, which, by the way, I didn't know this place of Elvis. The
I didn't know.
birthplace of
Yeah,
Elvis. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. And the hardware store is still standing and operational where his mom bought his first guitar. But I didn't get to go see
well,
that.
we all want to know, did you eat any crawfish?
No, I did not eat crawfish. No, no, I did not. We barely ate at all. It was this cool, surreal experience. And raising money for those veterans. I mean, they raised over $150,000
Hmm.
last night just from pledges, and just seeing the good work that they do for those folks, and that it's expanding and thriving. It's just an amazing thing.
And it is, even here on local. I knew John for years. Purple Heart Home is really, really, I don't want to say up this game. It's just grown.
Yeah.
But anything we need, that he's always jumped in. He's very involved, and
Hmm.
you can't ask for no better.
No,
It's
how
a good
honestly,
group. Good group.
yeah, it was good group. So I was glad to be there, but I'm really glad to be home because I didn't know that I was
I'm
going to
sure.
make it there for a minute. But I think it's me. I think I'm just a nervous flyer when it comes to those small planes, and so when you drop like 500 feet and just like a second, you're like, what?
Yeah,
Like,
forget that.
yeah,
If I want
no.
to fly, I'd have been a seagull, I
Uh,
guess.
okay, I will say, just from a girl's, if you're a girl listening to my voice, yes, Pete is very handsome in person, although he does have an oddly shaped back of his head. So I'm glad that part's not on camera. But other than
And I
that,
so hope you don't want me to comment.
yeah,
So
no, 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 no. You don't have to. You don't have to comment. But there was quite all of the women were in their best of finery yesterday,
oh
and
my
so there were
goodness.
conversations about that. He talked a lot about his mom and the support, and with President Trump, and he told him he said President Trump looked at him and said, "You're just going to have to be tough. You're just going to have to be tough. These people are going to come after you, and you just need to be tough."
Tough
So
and buy Tesla.
yeah, yeah. Well, I've got both. Maybe I could be the secretary one
You may
day.
could. There you go.
But no, so that was good. And then, but something that you and I have talked a lot about this, and I hope you don't mind if we bring it up. There was a big debate that I had to miss yesterday because of that trip on the Senate floor about constitutional carry,
Yes.
and it is emotional, right? I mean, so taking out the policy portion of it, I'll be real quick with me. When I was a little girl,
That means more time for me to talk.
yeah,
No, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. Come on, there. But when I was I've always had a different relationship with guns. I have a concealed carry, and I make myself go shoot. But I don't naturally gravitate towards them because when I was a little girl, I was on the wrong end of a gun during a domestic dispute, and to this day, I still get that little flutter. You know what I mean? But I make myself be comfortable with
Hmm.
them, and I don't begrudge or never want to restrict somebody else's rights. But when I hear some of the debate, like I did, I listened in a little bit yesterday, and some of the things were just absurd that folks who were against
Absolutely.
it, they were just absurd and does not, we actually increased domestic violence stuff and everything else. But some of these, I think it's coming out of fear because they don't understand. But I mean, so we're now looking at removing the not I guess we're not taking away, if this bill should become law, we're not taking away a permit,
No,
right?
we'll still have it for out of state travel if you want to. You'll still have the concealed carry permit.
Yeah.
When you go to FFL,
Yeah.
you'll still have that number that sort of speeds the process along. So it's not
So
going away.
how does that work? So I have my concealed carry. And so if this law should pass, I can go and buy a handgun without any additional paperwork?
You still on the federal. If you're going to purchase it from a federally firearms licensed dealer, you still have to
Okay.
be 21.
Okay.
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 On this, the constitutional carry, the wordage of constitutional carry will be 18-year-olds.
Okay.
And the reason that is, and the reason I brought up is the 21, 18-year difference is nothing more than, a lot of people thinks now an 18-year-old can't. Yeah, 18-year-old can open carry. Now, that's the way the law
Oh,
is
that's
now.
right. Okay.
But you just can't buy from a federally firearms licensed dealer until you're the age of 21. So
Okay.
private purchase, when we repealed the pistol permit, which I had more of an issue with that just because it protected the seller.
Hmm.
Uh, you can still do a private purchase at the age of 18.
Okay. All right. So I can do a private. So if I'm 18 years old today, nothing changes. I can go to my uncle. I can buy
Mm-hmm.
his gun. I can put it on as long as I have it openly carried and I
Open
don't
carry
carry it onto what
and
prohibited.
no restricted areas.
Yeah. Because restricted areas are what, like schools?
Really anywhere under the even under the constitutional carry, even under the current system, you can put a placard that says concealed carry is not welcome here. So it would
Hmm.
be a trespass, and if you entered, you've been told not to. They have
Hmm.
that. That goes for law enforcement as well. A lot
Really?
of people don't think it,
Oh,
but
I thought you could carry anywhere.
you can, but you can be restricted if you're not doing a case or if you're
Oh.
doing something personal.
Okay.
So to answer the question, it'll still be the same way. You're just taking in North Carolina, you're just taking the concealed carry permit out of it.
Okay.
There's some questions about transitioning on school grounds that I had in our board meeting. So
Hmm.
the way it is now, on with a valid concealed carry, you're allowed to carry a concealed weapon through car rider line for the purpose of dropping off children.
Okay.
If you exit the vehicle or transition from concealed carry to open, it has to be locked and secured in your vehicle
Okay.
on school property.
Okay.
The problem, and maybe I've not seen all of it, but what I understood is basically if you're 18, no felony, you constitutionally carry on school property, you could potentially be able to just secure it in the trunk and lock in the
Oh,
vehicle.
yeah.
That may be an issue with a lot of
Yeah.
people.
I think we need to clean that
Uh,
up.
yeah, and obviously I am very pro Second Amendment. I think it's good. I hear a lot of the arguments that, well, the bad guys are carrying them anyway. But yeah, we know that. So,
Hmm.
but you got to look at the other side. Are you giving good law abiding citizens a chance to protect themselves
Hmm.
a little easier versus going to get a
Yeah.
permit? I seen some officers talking about. I think now one thing you need to pass on to Senator Britt. He did steal one of our lines that we've used forever. Is the only way you stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, and that's actually factual.
Yeah.
We've seen an active shooter situation. We've seen it in churches and schools. So it's going to be a hard debate. I did
Yeah.
see one of the things that come up in a committee, and this was from an officer, and I do not remember her name. She's actually talking to Senator Britt, and she said that she had actually investigated, and here's the circumstance she gave was a woman with a child, a young baby,
Mhm.
was approached by some guys that had a gun.
Okay.
Her argument is once she responded to that call, since everybody could constitutional carry, she couldn't search the person for a concealed weapon. But
Oh,
here's the thing: what happened to the part about the robbery? You can still investigate a robbery. So that's one of
okay.
the unvalid complaints or
Yeah.
allegations you see in committees, and committees are known for those
Yeah.
because y'all are getting everything. So
Yeah.
it, I'm anxious to see. I do like the Senate bill personally better than I do
Mhm.
the House bill. We'll have to see what kind of amendments and things are put
Yeah.
into it. But 29 other states do it.
Yeah.
It's a hard sale.
That's what gives me comfort. So sorry to interrupt you, but so when I was reading through and doing research, and you and I had spoken about it, so I felt very comfortable with our conversation. And then I went out and I was like, man, there's 29 other states,
Mhm.
and the world hasn't ended in those states.
And and from a sheriff's perspective, I understand. I do think there again. I've always stood. I think citizens should be able to exercise their constitutional rights, and I do believe they should protect themselves. But I tell
Mhm.
everybody to ask me if it was your spouse or if it was your child. Let's say Stacy tonight had to
Mhm.
drive to help Addison and Raleigh, and she's driving at 2 o'clock for a medical emergency. I do feel more comfortable. She was able to. She shouldn't have to have permission to carry a gun. She should be
Mhm.
able to split a weapon to protect herself if she has a flat
Mhm.
a tire,
Mm.
and it just is what it is.
Yeah.
I'd feel a lot better. There's a level of protection there.
So my another question I have, and sorry to just put you on the spot, but so I have my concealed carry permit, and I'm going to choose to keep that. I just I don't know. I sat through that 8-hour class that I thought was very
And you should
enjoyable.
keep, and it looks cool. It looks
Yeah, and it's cool
professional.
because I can say it
And I
like,
sign it.
yes, and you sign it, right. So I've got my signed sheriff concealed carry permit. Now, if I keep that and then this law goes through, is there further restrictions on me for having that than it is for someone else who's just called? Like, for example, it doesn't mean like I can now carry, like, if I have my concealed carry, I can't carry that gun into a bar. And right. But if this law passes, someone without a concealed carry, they can't carry a gun into the bar
No,
either, right? So it's not going to hurt me or restrict my freedom anymore by having that permit, correct?
no, no.
Okay.
And really, everything you're just, it's hard to wrap our heads around it. But really, the conceal, if you go to the, I think the problem a lot of people have issue is because you're simply saying what our country was founded on is the Constitution. They don't like the word constitutional carry. That's
Mm,
what I've heard more of.
mm,
Uh, but to answer your question, no, a lot of your restrictions conceal, they're still in there. There's some on the House bill that has concerns, and
mhm.
it's not. It does change. It just sort of like I told you about the carrying on school.
Yeah.
You can transition and you can secure it, but multiply that times 50, 18 year
Yeah.
olds,
Yeah.
and so there may be some restrictions for
Yeah.
schools. There's also concerns about, you hate to say it, especially with young men, 18 years old, testosterone. Hey, no, you're dating. I can carry a gun.
Yeah.
I'm gonna you're talking to my girlfriend and I'm gonna produce it.
Yeah.
That argument is a little bit more feasible because
Yeah.
but that comes from go back to the family and teaching them right from
Yeah.
wrong and understanding. So
Yeah, I try to tell my young daughters that although I do enjoy their friends who are boys, they're clinically insane until they're 25.
oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's I think that's a proven fact. I'm sure there's a white paper on there. Now, I kind of tongue in cheek in caucus the other day mentioned something because I was reading through the law and part of where they're amending the statute, there's all of these like knives that are prohibited. Like I didn't know what a slung shot was until the other day, but that is
We
actually
don't
in
see
law.
a lot of them, but
Okay, I didn't know what it was.
brass knuckles,
That's what I said. Free the brass knuckles. Why can't I
yeah,
carry brass knuckles concealed? Or
darts that go so fast, yeah.
yeah, or like one of those Chinese throwing stars.
No,
Remember those?
yeah, that come up and yeah, and that's not gonna change.
I know that's what I said. I think we should free the knives because I joke around about it, but seriously, my daughter, both of my daughters, carry knives with them everywhere they go because for protection, especially as college students. And I know they probably carry it somewhere they ought not to, and maybe there's a blade that may pop up and down this and that
I
not
got you.
to.
Yeah.
But I mean, that for a woman, I mean, that is really a very safe thing that they've carried knives
We trained that in our
forever.
rad class.
I went to your rad class.
That's right.
It was fantastic.
I
And
didn't
if
get to watch none, but they won't let us in. But I know that
well,
y'all get trained how
I'm
to.
going to tell you what, I am the okay, so if I were to be jumped, like I got jumped by the officers, I'm dead. I have no self-defense mechanism. I'm like a turtle. Like I didn't know what to do. Now my friend Candace, now she beat up the one and then went after the other and was
There
going
you
down.
go.
But just so you know, I probably do need to carry because I do not defend myself very well. But tell everybody about the rad class because that is
Oh, the
actually an
rat,
amazing
our rape
class.
aggression defense training. It's only women, and they can come with their young daughters. It was,
Yep.
Randy Marion is one that actually brought it up when we were speaking about it. Is college girls going off to college
Right.
just to protect themselves? So we started, and it has blossomed from there. And I think we got a class upcoming. Billy, well, I know we talked about it yesterday, but I can't remember. I can't remember when it was. But
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
great class.
awesome.
Call us in, email us, download the app.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
get you hooked up. But
Yeah.
you're just talking about the Constitution carry real quick. Maybe you
Mhm.
should just change it to nunchuck carry law and then
Yes.
just include guns in it.
That's right. Free the nunchucks.
Yeah, there you
Let's do
go.
it. I'm in.
And get, oh, we're gonna get cussed if
No, we're
somebody's
not.
listening.
I mean, I seriously brought that up in caucus. I'm like, look, okay, if you're gonna like allow people to constitutional carry, then why can't you have a gun? I
And
mean,
just
why can't you have a
add guns to
yeah,
it.
that goes to it. See, Darren, if we were rulers of the world, everything would be so much easier.
At least from that part, I don't know about the rest of it, but it has. And like I say, here we have a lot of good, responsible gun owners. We really do.
Mhm.
I do think if they're sitting there shooting encounters, say bad guy versus good guy, whatever,
Mhm.
I do think because I'll speak from my family's perspective. I've got a 15 and a 17-year-old, and they could charge any pistol that you put out here. They
Mhm.
practice, they shoot. We shoot together. They do. And
Mhm.
if you take that, the question was, well, would they be more lethal? Well, they're going to be trained,
Right.
and I do like the training aspect
I
of
do
it. I
too.
mean, it's a lot of things because a lot of your accidental shootings are just the fact that you don't know how the weapon's charged. You don't know if there's one.
Mhm.
Mostly semi-automatics. I mean,
Yeah.
revolvers. No 18-year-old is going to carry a revolver.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't look good.
Oh,
So, but you got to,
that
they have to, I would love them to have a training component, at
Me
least know how
too.
to do a magazine change, how to clear the weapon, how to charge the weapon.
Yeah,
Uh, Same thing as law enforcement
yeah,
has, and I think there's and that is where the Constitution. I mean, that's where the permit system is very good.
I
You at
agree.
least because there's a lot of people says I never knew that. I thought when you pulled it out, it wouldn't fire. Well, some pistols will fire with a magazine removed
Mhm,
if if it's
mhm,
charged. And when I say charged, I mean loaded.
mhm.
So there's a lot of things to think about it, but I don't expect to see a lot of
Well,
crimes increase. The mess of putting more guns on the street,
yeah.
it's a lopsided story.
Yeah. So when we were talking about this last week and knew the bill was coming up, I had actually begged for an idea of to fund our SR, our sheriff resource officers at
Absolutely,
school,
that'd be great.
and to give you guys the ability to do like a hunter safety or a gun safety class for every public school child or any school that chooses to have that and have like a day class on guns. I mean, I think some
And
of
they
the
do it now. We help wildlife doing hunter safety
do
classes. We
you?
participate, and usually it's on a work day.
Uh huh.
I sent my boys to it.
Yeah.
They know
Good
no,
to know.
they go. But if you had a 4 hour class, say, hey, here's the difference between a revolver, a semi-automatic, chambers, different models, as far as gun manufacturers. Here's what this ammo's for, and here's
Yeah.
what that would be a great thing. And obviously, the SROs in their schools could pull it off, and you could have a 16 or above. Well, you could have 18 or above, and that's
Mm-hmm.
going to eliminate a lot of them because early colleges, they're the ones that have more than 18,
Oh
but a lot
yeah.
of them still out or close to it, out at
Mm-hmm.
17. But that would be a great thing
I
to
think you
start the
should.
generation.
Yeah, I think you should because that's the only thing that bothers me is just the fact that, and I guess they could no matter what, like a bad guy with a gun, exactly. But just having some kind of familiarity with a firearm,
Hmm.
and I think that would be a great place to start is in schools. And I know Yadkin County, they have. I mean, Yadkin's very rural, but they still have hunter safety classes
Yep.
in their school at their public school, and I think it's just valuable, right?
And you also have SROs in the schools. You're right, and you have the Wildlife Resource Commission. They do it because they always do hunter safeties. The requirement is
Hmm.
boat. We train them. You have to have a boat certification.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
general, and if you do it, if you start at 18, then next year all your 20-year-olds have the training, then a new group. So it constantly
Hmm.
goes, and sooner or later, it's just like anything else, it will get to where most of your gun purses
Yeah.
have had that class.
Hmm.
And
And I'm going to say the one thing I really did like about the concealed carry class, other than just, working through the mechanics of a gun, is the laws that surround
oh yeah,
a gun when you have to use lethal force. And how do you protect? Because, you could draw your gun to protect yourself in a bad situation, but if you don't know the laws around it, then you could be on the wrong side of the law.
or how to maintain custody of your own gun. We have a lot of people
Yeah.
killed with their own guns, and I
Really?
don't say a lot of people, but I'm talking about
Like,
across the country. A lot of
yeah.
officers are.
Oh,
You
wow.
constantly hear officers, and what it is, if you get somebody that's properly trained, which prisons are one of the best training grounds for criminals, they teach how to disarm officers.
Really?
Yeah, that's. I
Oh,
mean,
my
there's a lot of
gosh.
videos about that. So, if you pull a weapon, if you make that decision, no matter in your home or wherever, you got to make sure you can maintain possession or custody of that
Hmm.
weapon, and be as, I guess, protect yourself the best you can
Well, and know,
through
yeah, and
training.
and know how to handle it, like, and know what to, so that you're not being the one that's prosecuted when you were in a bad situation, and that to
And
me
they
was a
may,
big deal.
and not only custody of that, we've had tragic cases where people will forget a firearms inside of a car and a child will
Mm,
pick it up. We just had
mm,
that 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, you need to understand it's not just something like you go to Walmart and buy something, put it in the car
mhm.
and leave it.
Yeah,
It's not, and it's not a living and breathing thing. But the repercussions of not having and understand that weapon has wide implications.
that's why we need to free the nunchucks.
And just add the guns in.
Yeah, free the nunchucks. Well, you are listening to We're Just Saying with Sheriff Darren Campbell, and I am your dutiful Senator Vickie Sawyer. Please stay tuned to us after the break.
We all want more of a North Carolina, more boundless views, more adventures in the outdoors, and more clean roads to get there. But to get more, we have to do less. Less littering, that is. Make it your nature to trash your trash and keep NC clean. And we'll all have more reasons to love North Carolina. Litter less, get more. For more on the 7 outdoor NC Leave No Trace principles, visit OutdoorNC.com. Sponsored by the North Carolina Association of Broadcasters and Visit North Carolina, a part of the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina in cooperation with this station.
Plan on flying? It's time to upgrade to a real ID. Because in order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a real ID, or you'll need another acceptable form of identification. So don't wait. Find out how to get your real ID at tsa.gov/real ID. That's tsa.gov/real ID. Or visit your local DMV. And then you'll be cleared for takeoff.
Hurricane Helene, devastating impacts on the Southeast. Now it's time to help the people and communities who need it most. To make a one-time financial gift to the American Red Cross and enter how much you'd like to donate. Or go to redcross.org/donate. Together, we will make a difference for those recovering in hard-hit communities.
Bravo, Brenda. You've always been a saver. Price matching your price matches. The self-proclaimed queen of extreme couponing. But this time, you've truly outdone yourself. By saving for this electric vehicle, you're locking in up to $1,000 a year in fuel and maintenance savings, which will leave you saying, cha-ching, every time you unplug. Good for your wallet, great for the planet. That's the power of EV. Sponsored by the ANC Clean Energy Technology Center and the North Carolina Association of Broadcasters in cooperation with the station.
We all play a role in keeping our community safe.
Every day, we move in and out of each other's busy lives.
It's easy to take for granted all the little moments that make up our everyday.
Some are good,
Others not so much.
But that's life.
It's when something doesn't seem quite right.
that it's time to pay attention.
Because only you know what's not supposed to be in your everyday.
So protect your everyday.
If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
Welcome back to We're Just Saying with Sheriff Darren Campbell from Iredell County. And I, Vickie Sawyer, who is just happy to be alive after a bad plane crash yesterday, a plane flight yesterday. Off the air during the break, we had this great conversation that you surprised me with, Sheriff.
Uh-oh. I forgot what all we talked about.
I know. Well, this was easy. I think this is one that we can all kind of wrap our hands around. Window tint. So you're gonna make my friend Todd Johnson. I'm gonna put this part of the segment and send it to him because he is forever and a day wanting to darken the tint on his cars, and I think he may actually have a shop who does it, and then he tears it off when he gets inspected and then gets it put back. I mean, maybe that's not him, but I've heard of other people do that before. But so. We've always heard it's a concern for law enforcement to have darker windows up front, but then you travel to like South Carolina and Florida and they have the different tints. So what's the deal?
Here, and obviously that got brought up in our meeting, so I don't say our positions till they're published, but I will tell you this: from being in law enforcement 30 years, I've dealt with tinted windows back 20 years. I've learned, and most officers have learned their way around and how to deal with it. It's not a big concern from everybody that I've spoken to.
How do you do that? Like, what is the reason now for not allowing it? What do they say? Like,
I mean, you hear some. Well, it's hard to see an occupant on a dark night, things like that. But there's certain things now with LED lighting, spotlights you can shine through the vehicle. You can ask people to step out. Then there's a provision, I think, in that bill to have them roll down the window. Then the issue is going to be, what if it's pouring down rain?
Yeah,
it's a lot of issues that I think law enforcement, through our training and through years of dealing with this, it's just not one of our biggest concerns.
Gotcha.
At least it's not ours. I don't hear from our guys.
Yeah.
So really, and I've heard a little bit of conversation, but pretty much what I'm telling you from other sheriffs is like, that was a 20-year ago issue.
Okay. All right. Well, Senator Todd Johnson.
Now that's Derek. Now I don't know him. Now my 18-year-old or my 17-year-old wants it as well.
Oh, okay.
My issue is the reason I don't is because, and well, he maybe a little bit, but the reason dark tin windows, here's where they're the most dangerous. Here's the most impactful.
Right.
Is at night, driving in low light conditions and trying to make a turn without rolling down the window because you can't see through the tint to turn in the drives.
Makes sense. So it makes sense. Okay. So, okay. Well,
I mean, I'm not saying do this, but put on a pair of dark sunglasses and try to drive at night.
Oh, well, that's fair. Okay.
At least try to turn left or right. Anyway,
yeah.
Because the front will not be tinted, but it's just not an issue that I see as really something that I'm concerned with.
Right. Gotcha. Right. Because I've always wondered how, like, in Florida, they can do that. And
well, they blame it because they're the Sunshine State. And it's so Arizona, same way. I mean, and it goes back to the tinted. And I've heard this argument or read a little bit about it because I read some of the stuff in the bill. Back in the time, the materials on dashes and vehicles would crack so bad. So that was one of the protections.
Okay.
Just have tinted windows.
Okay. Now, what about the front? Is that still they have that
I
you can
think
do?
you can still have certain amount on just on the whatever that 10 apiece
Yeah.
is above.
So
But
I had a lady call one day because I think she was very pro tent, and she wanted it on the front because she claimed, and maybe she did or didn't, but that she had skin cancer on her hand, and so she didn't like driving because without a front tent, and because
mhm.
it would like I was like, well,
But
just
there's an answer for
sunscreen.
her. They do make a version of that that you can have installed. It's absolutely no tint, but it still keeps out UV light.
Really?
There is a version because that I've heard that before.
Yeah.
Because if you know officers, a lot of officers deal with, and I just had a place on my arm, and it's from riding from years in a patrol car and truck drivers on the left side.
Oh yeah.
So there is actually research, yeah, because my guys, they say, and there's also bullet resistant film that goes in cars that we talked about. But either way,
Uh-huh.
but going back to this, there is
Yeah.
a version that's not tinted that still protects
Yeah.
from UV.
All right. Well, here you heard it here first that tent isn't the devil, and to wear sunscreen on your hands if you're prone to.
And polarized glasses and all that good
Well,
stuff.
speaking of polarized glasses, there's something cool that you guys have called a lake patrol that you
Marine Operations Unit, I think. Nah. Yes, we do have the Lake Patrol.
Yeah, and we were talking about, I mean, now Iredell County shares Lake Norman and now Lake Lookout. That's just what we have it with Catawba, Lincoln, and Mecklenburg. So
Yep.
you really have to interact with all four of those, but you have the most.
We have 200. Okay, the lake is over 500, whatever. We have over 274 miles of shoreline.
Right.
So we have almost, in fact, almost over half the whole lake.
Mm-hmm.
Just Lake Norman is our responsibility.
Yeah.
So we share Lake Norman with Mecklenburg, which really doesn't have a lot of presence. They more let Cornelius run that side of it,
Mhm.
but also have Catawba and Lincoln that we deal with on Lake Patrol.
Yeah.
As you go up the Catawba River, we have Lake Lookout, which we share with Catawba and Alexander. Now, I've got to give you credits because you did this. We used a lot of drug dealer money to buy our first boat.
Mhm.
We had to get it because there's over 50,000 registered voters on Lake Norman.
Wow.
Unbelievable. But we got, whenever they tried to set the record for the flotilla, the 4,000 boats, we can't compete. We cannot stand the wakes with our smaller boats. So
Oh yeah.
we did use asset forfeiture money to buy a bigger enclosed cabin. So because we do man hours, not quite 24, but sometimes a year 24 hours 7 on the boat because we can
Wow.
respond faster by water than vehicle.
Right.
But when we present to you about another boat, and it was the safe boats, which had open bows to be able to do rescues, because at that year we'd had, I forgot, up in the teens of drowning.
Yeah.
You worked with the General Assembly and got us a boat through a general appropriations.
Mhm.
And another thing is after the drowning of the officer, and I wish I could remember the officer the fireman that
Yes,
drowned,
that was trying to rescue on a
trying to
rescue mission.
rescue
Yeah.
another person who'd been dead. We made the decision we need an RV or a remotely operated vehicle for underwater. So
Yeah.
you work for the General Assembly, you got us in the budget. So the way my math works,
Mhm.
when it comes out of Raleigh, really nothing good comes out of Raleigh except some people's paycheck and I-40. But 100 counties, if everybody put a penny, that makes $1. If we got an appropriation from the General Assembly, our investment on our lake because of the trip was about a penny
Yeah.
on
Good.
$1. That's
Yeah.
the way my math
Love
works.
your math. Love
And
it.
we have done that. And because we have a lot of tourists come from other places
Mhm.
to the lake.
Yeah.
Y'all hear that through the RB or the rental places.
Mhm.
But we had to be competitive. So we have got some of the best technology,
Good.
thanks to you and your
Wow.
constituents in General Assembly and helping us.
Yeah. Well, we are
And Bradley Long, thank you,
Oh,
Billy.
yes.
I remembered. I've got a shirt. I remember it, but that was such a tragic thing.
Yeah.
Trying to help really recover a
Yeah.
body for the family.
Yeah, so I know that I've heard from scuba divers. I don't scuba dive, but that when you try to do those rescue missions on the lake, it is just you can't see. You
No.
really can't. You get disoriented. You don't know where you're at. It's deep.
And we actually got 2 RVs with the appropriation. And it has radar, it has hooks. So if we do have to recover a victim, we can do it without involving
Wow.
a diver. But
That's
the good part
awesome.
of that with repurposing our assets and moving our assets, not just going and buying something new,
Mhm.
we was able to do it through the General Assembly appropriations. But we was able to take one of our older boats to have a presence on Lake Lookout.
Good.
So we have already had 3 calls for service, I think, on Lake Lookout.
Okay.
Lake Lookout's about a 1,400 acre impoundment that is very hard to access. We only have one access really from
Oh,
the idle
yeah.
side.
Yeah.
But if we was to have a drowning or a motorboat or a crash, we have a boat now placed up there within 200 yards of access, so
Good.
we can get on it. So and
Good.
that was totally made possible by through your hard work with the
Oh,
budget and the
no.
General Assembly. So
Happy to help. Hey,
don't worry, there's some more requests
I'm
coming.
sure there is, and I'm happy. I'm happy to help because I think that is the one thing that you can.
And that don't count the command bus that goes
Oh
along with
yeah,
it.
you
So
got a
we'll get it.
command
Yeah,
bus.
we hadn't got it yet, but we'll get it through
Yeah,
the
it's
General Assembly.
coming. Well, we have so many issues on Lake Norman, and oh my gosh, I opened a can of worms with the Lake Norman Marine Commission. But I've lived on Lake Norman. My husband was born and raised on there, and there's really not a good there's not one set of rules that everybody goes by, right? Because that you have the Lake Norman Marine Commission, and then you have you guys, which you have your county ordinances and state laws, but then
Yes.
wildlife comes in with their kind of. It's really the wild. I mean, you guys enforce and do a great job of what you can do, but we have things like, well, those drownings. Did you know that most of those, or not all? I think all of those drownings came from people who were in rental boats.
Yeah, we've spoke about that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they were
Yep.
all in rental boats. So
Yep.
there's no regulation. The guys gets out there, and apparently on Lake Norman, your boat will just turn around in circles if you don't have a beer in your hand. Because I've
That's
witnessed it. It seems like every stinking person has a like
yep.
they have to balance their driving skill with a beer. And when you don't know what you're doing, you're renting a boat, you're out there drinking, you have young children, and then there's how there's just like the wild west of
You're
regulation.
right, and you have to have, if you're a certain age, and I wish I can remember. We do the checkpoints, and we try to help people, life preservers.
Mhm.
We do inspections, things. But if you're to come here from wherever, you can go to rent a boat
Yeah.
and not have to have no kind of safety. And I'll tell you, no training.
Right.
We've actually had a couple bad injuries where they'll be tied up on the lake, tied up, enjoying weekend, which
Right.
they shouldn't be 50 boats tied up. But then one person, they'll be swimming, and one person that has no training really just knows, and he pushes it in reverse and the prop backs over. And
Yeah.
that actually happened.
Yeah. We used to
We've
call it kid shopper. So
It
when
is.
we would to put out our boats and we would tie up not 50, but there'd be 5 or 10 of us, and my girlfriends would always be like, "Okay, kids, get away from the kid chopper.
Yep,
Get
yep,
there's
yep.
a kid chopper. Don't be careful." I mean, but if you don't know, I mean, you
No,
just
and a simple, hey, either I don't, even if it was a simple online course of where you
right,
can actually
right,
anything like that could help. They could plan before their vacation, but just
right,
coming and getting because you got everybody else that's been trained, but you got the person that maybe never have operated a boat.
right, right. And you don't want to disallow someone for having some fun and freedom, but also there's like that level of like you need to know what's going on in a boat. I mean, accidents happen all the time, and
Well,
I
we don't
feel
let 10 years old drive trucks on the
I know,
road. I mean,
I know, I
there's a lot of the argument to the safety of
yeah.
everybody.
Well, so there's that one pit that boater safety is a big issue. And then also like property safety. We have
Hmm.
these huge bladder boats that come up, and
Yep.
what they do is they suck in all this water, and apparently they're free. I mean, I see online they're about $300,000, but they're everywhere. So apparently they're free around here. And so people will come right beside your dock. And now docks these days, you could probably get by like a while ago for the $30,000 dock. There's just a
Yep.
small thing.
Yep.
Now we're talking $200,000, $300,000 worth of dockage out there, and then you've got these 4-foot waves coming right by your dock and busting it up all the time. And you guys try to regulate that, but then there's really not an ordinance. So then when they get the ticket, it's just like a nothing.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something else. Along with that, we have a
Mhm.
lot of issues with. We do not have it here. I had got a lot of videos. Most of it's in Lincoln County,
Mhm.
but these people's actually advertising on land that they are online.
Mhm.
Come park it in access. Leave your car. You load up on my pontoon boat, and I'll take you to an island to party on.
Oh,
I mean, drink, and we seen videos. Thank gosh it was not idle, but we have really got heavy with Lincoln and doing that enforcement because you got a
yeah.
whole boatload of people going to an island that shouldn't be throwing
Mm.
trash. Oh, the trash was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So the lake is a living, breathing thing. I'm telling you. And you're right. The dockage, the cost, and the amount of people now that's building.
I know.
Marine Commission's been around since the '60s,
Yeah,
I
69,
believe.
1968 or 9. Yeah.
At that time, the lake was just there wasn't 5 people and a
Mm.
thousand seagulls on it.
Yeah.
So it's changed a lot.
I think all the seagulls are now in the Target parking lot for some reason. I don't understand how that
Yeah, don't
works out.
park out. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen it.
I'm like, come on, birds. Like, why are you hanging out in a asphalt parking lot? What's the deal with that? There's
Yep.
a beautiful lake over there.
And I assume probably just me guessing is a lot of the people that do the rental boats are against any kind of training
They
because
are.
it interferes with their business.
Mhm.
But you've also got to think about the other people that enjoy the lake,
Right.
Because if my youngin or we went to the lake and we're driving,
Mhm.
we know pass on the right. If they don't even know what side to pass on.
Yeah. So this was my most miserable experience as as General Assembly member. So I get up there and I'm very excited about being a lawmaker. And so it's bill filing time, and here I go. And so I had been um I drive the boat in our house. My husband drives the boat, obviously, but I drive the boat. Our girls drive the boat. When the girls were little, I wouldn't wait around for Brett to get home. We would get out on the boat, we'd water ski and everything
Yep.
else. Well, sure as sugar, I'd be in the back of a cove or somewhere just skiing, having somebody learn training them behind me, and some jackleg would come up and just ride behind me. I'm like, if my kid
Yeah.
falls, you are going to absolutely run over her. And that is just but again, that boater safety and training. So I had found that Lake Tahoe did this like skier down or skier flag where it's just like this
Yep.
suction cup, and you put the flag up. So that cues law enforcement to see if somebody is tailing me.
We do, but the other people don't know what the flag means.
I know exactly. So I filed that thing, and Lord, you would have thought like the Lake Norman Marine Commission, I had taken away their child, and I was like, "Come on, guys! Like we're just talking about a little boater safety here," and they lambasted me and
See, and
fussed at me.
I have
And,
an overall pretty good from our perspective of
yeah.
the Marine Commission. So my thing is, just the lake in general,
Mhm.
and just think about it, Billy. You're sitting there listening. You want to go take your family down to the lake, and you have to have the training, or if you're old enough, you don't. But a young person, we'll say younger, they can have the training. They know port and all this stuff. They know the sides and what the red and the green lights. They know the
Mhm.
difference. They know why you see them at night. If you get somebody to rents a boat, they have no idea
Mm-mm.
what that means. They have no idea probably what an inboard outboard is. If you was to have a fire, I mean, they don't have the regulations. And my argument has always been because we do recover. And I'm telling you, there's limbs cut off. There's different things that's cut up with props. And
Mhm.
you're right about all those come from people on rental that had no training.
Right.
And I'm not saying some people maybe very well know boats,
Right.
but a lot of them don't. And it only takes the one.
Yeah. It does.
I mean, think when they don't go to train, they don't understand the boating impaired
Mhm.
laws. There's how many preservers, how to throw. There's a lot of stuff that
Mhm.
would really benefit everybody as a whole.
Yeah, I completely agree. Even the state of Florida has a boater safety component, and it's just like an app that you just sit there and you read through, and then you take a small little quiz afterwards, and at least you have some sort of knowledge, or heck, or who to call if something bad goes wrong. So
Yep.
I don't know. So we're enjoying some of that Lake Norman, but um, regulatory fun, which is not fun at all. But it's good for the community. Lake Norman's a huge asset for all of our counties
It is.
involved. It's a massive economic engine, and it's just there's environmental components too. These have this nasty algae that's down in Cornelius, and it's just a lot.
Well,
It's
and
just a
Duke
lot.
Power for us, now I
Mhm.
can't speak. They've always been great to work
Yeah,
with.
I agree.
We're working on something now that hopefully will give us more of a centralized presence because we store in boat slips
Mhm.
basically around the lake. But we're working on trying to get a location where we can have our operations. If we was to have something happen in Helena, where we can
Mhm.
actually set up the mobile command bus if we need to cover the middle of that lake, because really
Mhm.
we're further south or further north
Mhm.
at our presence. So we're working. They've been great to work with, but that's something that we've
Yeah.
spoke about. But
What
the
is
lake is.
what is the sorry to put you on the spot here, and I'll Google it, but talk to me about talk to me about, I don't really know that I have clarity about what is the DUI law on the boat on the lake. So I'm driving, sheriff's pull me over. I'm obviously intoxicated. So you guys can take me off the boat and
Mhm.
haul me into jail?
There's certain tests that you need to complete.
Okay.
We understand that some and Jared is probably the expert, those
Yeah,
guys to answer
right.
this, because there's also a defense called sea legs and things like that you've got to worry about. But yes, and the problem is I don't want to say this because everybody's going to say, well, I didn't know that. But what's the penalties? We're going to do revoke her driver's license.
That's a yeah.
It's hard to be very impactful,
Yeah.
even if you are
There's no
punished.
teeth into, I think we should really look into something about like
You
that, because
affect
if
their auto insurance if they have one registered on a boat DWI, then and I don't know, maybe the insurance committees do that. I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, no, because I've written insurance for boats for years, and there's really
yep.
no. I mean, they may tack them a little bit if they have something like that, but it doesn't even come up on their motor vehicle record. I don't
I don't
think.
think it does. And then if you did get caught for that, then chances are he's going to load it up and go home anyway. So you're
Right.
driving. So
Yeah.
there is. I
I think
don't
we need
feel
to
that.
really look at that,
I
because
think it's something
that's,
good.
yeah, because especially, and the weird thing is that when you started talking about water and water safety and boat regulations, we've got this beautiful coast of North Carolina,
Yep.
and they don't want any of us inlanders making any decisions for what happens in that coast. So when
Yeah.
you start talking about,
They even try to affect the school, from what I hear, the
yes,
school calendar because
yeah,
it interferes with the tourism.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, they're those coastal lawmakers. They really get excited about some stuff, and
Well, we
Lord,
appreciate your dedicated
yeah.
service to the citizens of North Carolina, the North Carolina Senate.
But I will say that so when we do so oftentimes we get into this thing, we'll just pass a state law, guys.
Not that easy.
It ain't that easy, especially when you got those folks down east who are really very territorial about their water, and they have Coast Guard, right? Coast Guard is a lot more of a presence down there than they are here.
And you had the Marine Fisheries Commission. I mean, there's
Oh
a lot of different,
Lord,
sort of like our wildlife, and then you got
yeah,
like New Hanover, Brunswick. I mean,
yeah.
there are helicopters, Marine units, and we actually Lake Norman is almost. Think about this: if you take the shoreline out, it's
Mhm.
almost longer than Outer Banks.
I had no idea. I didn't think about that. Holy smokes.
We cover 274 miles of shoreline just in Iredell.
Wow. That's a
Now, the volume
lot.
of water is a lot different,
Sure. But
you know,
yeah.
it's a
But it's just two different bodies of water, right?
it
So
is.
that's where the Lake Norman Marine Commission is so important because they actually have the authority to make these rules, and then
Yep.
the rules have to go to each county to get um, adopted, and then you can write it, and then it's on to the DA actually to enforce it. And so there's this whole thing about you guys can actually go and write and do these things, but unless the district attorney is going to prosecute those items, and sometimes they don't think that the Lake Norman Marine Commission's rules are actually prosecutable. And so you guys are doing the right thing. And not to say that our district attorney is not. It's just this really big mess of
Well,
rules and laws.
and you got to remember the district attorney is it's a political position.
Mhm.
We can do the ordinances, we can force statute, and if she takes a plea, dismiss or whatever, that's her
Mhm.
decision.
Mhm.
But we'll obviously meet the elements of the ordinance and the statute. And you're
Mhm.
right, it just depends on where the pressure comes from. Just like you hear it from the coast. You know, my thing is, hey, y'all like sharks, we don't. So
Yeah.
let's take care of this, and y'all handle that. Uh,
Yeah.
but I will say this: we here in Iredell have been very well taken care of
Yeah.
with your help in the General Assembly, because you see, you know, you get Davidson 1 and Davidson 2, which is basically 50% of the total tax. I mean, the
Yeah.
population and tax base.
Yeah.
And you know, we, as far as the Lake Troll, have added 2 positions, which, you know, obviously that's taxpayer dollars from the positions. But as far as the equipment,
Mhm.
we've really done it through appropriations. And
Yeah.
you know, that our presence on the lake, if you have airplane, I mean, we've had to deal with airplane crashes,
Yeah.
capsized boats, and 8 out of 10 times we're usually the first on the scene because they have that presence.
Yeah.
So I want to tell you
Big
thank
deal.
you publicly for
Oh.
making that, because you have always helped us with that, and not in the command. I don't know how much time we're probably running
Yeah,
out.
we got well. The command bus was kind of a neat thing too,
We
because
hadn't
that
got
was
it, but
that's okay. I
if we
mean,
have something like Helena happen, we can actually set that command bus up or mobile command, and we can deal with the media, satellite uplinks, all the communications from
Mhm.
Mooresville Fire. We wired that thing to have
Mhm.
Iredell County covered
yeah,
if we had to move, and we
Yeah.
had nothing other than to depend on Mecklenburg. And had they had something going on, we would have sort of been
yeah,
out in the cold.
yeah. I know. Hey, I want to change gears a little
All
bit.
right.
I'm so proud of your daughter. She
Sh-
is. Oh my gosh. Okay, first of all, she went to the Republican
Oh my
Party
gosh, yes, she's
convention
still mad
on.
at me. Billy, you hadn't heard this yet. Go ahead, Vickie.
Well, I'm just going to say she had a smile on, her beautiful smile on, and she is kind of taken after her father. She's got a little bit of that political bug because she's walking around the General Assembly building now as a intern, correct, for
Yes.
Representative Matthew Winslow.
That's right.
So if you're up in Raleigh, you come to see me, make sure to go see Miss Campbell, as we're going to call her. So, but then she also got the bug to come to the Iredell County Convention for the Republican Party.
Well, she wanted to go. Yeah, she likes hanging with me when she's home. I said, she goes, well, let's go. I'd like to do that. So we showed up. My precinct's Sharpsburg. Well, you know, Sharpsburg's not very populated, so the people that was there Saturday morning bright and early was me and Addison. Well, they need a precinct chair. Well, I told Addison, I said, I know where my vote's going for you. So I voted to elect her. So she is a precinct chair for Sharpsburg, which obviously she's in. What can I do? What can I do? And I'm telling her all sorts of this stuff. She
Did
needs
you
to
mess with her a little bit?
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
you have to go
absolutely.
door knocking and make sure they're real Republicans.
Yeah, and
or-
then she said, the way I see it, you're vice chair because you're there, and chair outranks vice chair, so you're gonna do what I say. I said, Addison,
Oh, brilliant!
that's what she told me. So,
Well
but
done.
she'll text me and she'll say, you know, she'll always say, hey, this. She goes, you got to go watch this committee meeting. She goes, it's gonna fight. So she really, and of course, Representative Setzer's come by and seen her,
Oh,
and she
good.
gets a lot of senators. I can't remember Keystone Barnes.
Yes, Lisa
Come by and
Barnes,
see Lisa.
yeah.
Come by and seen her.
Aw.
So she is she needs to stay the course of making money more than there, but
Yeah.
she really enjoys it. And they asked her, I think, to stay a little longer past her
Good.
internship.
Good.
So she is also sort of like a pig in mud. She loves it.
I'm glad that she does. And she's a college student in Raleigh. So it
And Meredith,
fits
yeah.
very well with her. And I had met one of her most favored
That's right.
professors. And when we were doing a transportation talk, I gotta say it that way now.
And of course, Addison will say, oh, yeah, I know Vickie.
Yeah.
Sweet Addison.
Yeah, she's great. I mean, she's great. It's just for me, you know, I've always hired young people in my office or folks who are just getting started in their politics,
Yep.
political career. And so I just love seeing somebody with their like the lights are on, right? And they're just super excited about being there.
I do. And I sat there and looked around the convention the other day we had. Of course, everybody has them. And right now is the time of going on. But, you know, you've got to remember, not just because my daughter, and I seen Stephen Hamby was there, we've got to make sure our young people
That's right.
understand the implications of the way laws are made and policy and procedures, because you hear it in the campuses, especially some campuses, are trying to take that away.
Yeah.
So for them to be young, do the internships, and stay involved in politics, because we're not getting no younger,
Mm-mm,
and they're the
no.
future.
No, I'm starting my third quarter in life this
Well, it's
year.
just like the retirement bill. We're
Yeah.
looking out for the young ones to get them to come through and carry on with what we've got. Here in
Mhm.
Idle, knock on wood, we're lucky. Our crime's down 53% in 10
That's
years. Out
amazing.
of the 12 biggest counties, we have half the crime of the next closest. And it's done it through the work that y'all do at the General Assembly, but us being able, even I got to throw the commissioner's bones, to be able to let me pay good officers, because I can have one good officer for a little bit more, or two sorry officers that can't do the job for the same amount.
Yeah.
So I would rather pay up and get good officers.
Well, I mean, and that's the work that you've done is a testament for Iredell County, because Mecklenburg County, a lot of that kind of violence and stuff was trying to push up into Iredell. And then they
Oh.
found that Darren Campbell's here. And so then they just went over to Cabarrus.
And Mooresville chasing them back.
Yeah,
So we got to give creds where
yeah,
creds is due.
Yeah. They're like, don't come up here.
And Vickie, that is true. I use social media. I make no Billy, we talk about it all the time. I use social media to make sure that the public knows who's criminals in our community, and they don't like it, so let them go somewhere else and commit crime. As long as it's not here.
And I do want to promote your app. So I know that you probably do that a lot, but that is a great app. So tell folks about that.
You can go Google Play, or you can go App Store, Iredell County Sheriff's Office app. You can do everything from gun permit information, all that. You can see if your neighbor's a sex offender. You can see if they're locked up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you got to laugh.
Yeah.
But I was just sitting here while I was thinking about it. You're thinking about safety, and this just while we was talking, I said, why can't I put a link to safety things on the app, to a go-to place if your boat broke down?
Yeah, absolutely.
The nearest wildlife station. So
I think it's a great idea.
There's always good ideas. So,
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, you were joking. Actually, my old residence, I had both a sex offender across the street and also someone who was on your app. Let's just say I had several. I had a very exciting neighborhood there for a little bit.
We've had over in one quarter. I think I told when it was 2 weeks ago. I think was in it. We'd had over 1.4 million clicks. 1.4 million.
Wow.
Hey, Stacy will sit there and look at that thing. She goes, "Did you not know he was a criminal before you locked?" I said, "No, Stacy. You can't tell by looking. But after you get him in jail, everybody says I should have seen that coming." So it's a good thing. Download.
And then also your website is good, and so make sure to go and then get all the resources there.
Citizens Academy going last night. They got to go to the firing range. I have not, because I do allow them to go to the firing range and select. I have not heard nothing bad yet. So
okay.
I hate I missed them. I couldn't go because I had another event to speak at. So we got a lot going on.
Yeah.
And the volleyball starts this Saturday.
Oh gosh.
34 teams, over 400 girls.
Wow.
States or senior high starting at 8:00.
That is huge. That is very good. I love the way, how you're out in the community with the rad and volleyball and everything that you're doing. So I just appreciate it.
And they don't pay a thing. We pay for everything.
The whole thing.
Refs,
and it's volleyball. Why did you start volleyball? Was it something that was
because I didn't want to compete with the schools. Because
Yeah.
in springtime I need their gyms for practicing and a place to play. So I didn't want to compete with outdoor sports. Some girls may not have made their team at school, but they really love volleyball. This gives them a chance to network. I don't allow travel teams to gang up. I make Mooresville and North work together on their teams.
Good.
And so far it's went like first started about 200 and something. Now we're 434 teams. And
That's awesome.
that's a lot of girls to listen to scream for 6 weeks. So, but if you're out, States Senior High, feel free any Saturday for the next 6 weeks. Come by and see us.
Well, I appreciate that. Well,
Absolutely.
thank you so much for pinch hitting for David
Thanks
Coble.
for having me.
I bet you our ratings are like 3 times as
I don't know.
good as
I
they
wonder
were.
if David's watching. We'll see how dedicated. We should have called him.
We should have called David to see how he's faring out there in Vegas.
Billy, is our ratings up? Should have.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Through the roof. Through the roof.
Well, thank you all for listening to
Absolutely.
We're Just Saying. Thank you, Darren Campbell, for being here, Sheriff
for
of Iredell
having me.
County. And we will be back. Hopefully, David will survive Vegas, and we'll be back next week.
And you keep up the good work.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You too. Have a great weekend.
The Carolina Swap Shop. Buy, sell, trade. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Call 888-331-0269. Real Country is 550 AM WAME, 92.9 W225BD, Statesville.